Now, let's go to that story about electricity regulation in Nigeria. And we know that the Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, announced the suspension of transfer of regulatory authority to state governments. Mr. Adelabu said that the decision was taken because state government and stakeholders in the power sector need to properly understand what is required to operate an electricity market. It said that adequate understanding of the transfer regulatory oversight of the electricity market to states is imperative for the survival and sustainability of the nation's power sector. What does this mean? We do know that there's been an amendment to Electricity Act in the country, allowing states to now properly participate in generation and distribution. So does this statement mean that has been put on hold? Let's have a lawyer, and good enough, he's an electricity, is a lawyer in the electricity area. He's professor of energy and electricity law. Professor Yemi Oke joins us virtually. Professor Oke, good afternoon, and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the great job you guys are doing out there.
Thank you so much, Prof. So please do help us to explain, is this suspension that the minister talking about, does it affect the amendment that has been done to the electricity bill?
Let me react this way. I wouldn't say, or I want to assume that the minister did not say exactly what is being reported. I want to assume that the minister evinced an intention that there will be a need, or there was a need for stakeholders to properly understand the constitutional, statutory, and regulatory framework that will enable states to begin to exercise their statutory and constitutional rights to regulate electricity in their respective states. Because if the minister said what was reported, the way it was reported, then my fear will be that the minister cannot, by executive declaration, amend the provisions of the Constitution or the provisions of an act made by the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The minister is an informed personality, knowledgeable person, and wouldn't have said so. But again, you read things in the media different from the intendment of the maker. But the fact that states now have constitutional and statutory right to regulate electricity generation, transmission, and distribution in their respective states is a matter of law. And no ministerial directive can change that. That is clear. Two, at what point will it be appropriate for the respective states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to begin to exercise their rights under the Constitution and the Electricity Act? Then what the law provides is that the state that is ready may approach the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission for transfer of such powers. Then there's a window. The state will need to get in touch with the regulator, NLC, and agree the structure, the regulatory structure they intend to have in their respective states. So I don't think the minister can unilaterally suspend the operationalization of the law, because the law, as we speak, the law is in place, the law is active. It's been signed into law and it's fully operational. It should be fully operational, including the Constitution. But the stakeholders can sit back and agree to a few things as to when those regulatory framework will take effect, the manner and extent of such regulatory powers, metering issue, tariff issues, stakeholder issues, and interface with the stakeholders, discourse, the existing discourse, cross-licensing issues, so many issues. Agree with the minister to that extent. It's not something that you just want to go blindly and abdicate powers or cede powers. Because the law says they need to sit with the regulator to agree to structure the timelines and transfer. And I'm also aware that a few states had already applied, and one or two states had been granted that regulatory autonomy. And once that is done, I don't think it would be appropriate to revoke that which has been given to those states.
All right, Prof. So, I mean, when I saw the story, I myself was asking, because we do know that getting to the part where the act was amended was a very long process, and we went through the legal. So, I mean, having the minister make that pronouncement was worrying, but thank you for clearing the air on that, at least from your own perspective. But what I would like to ask, I'll ask for you to kindly expose a bit more about the issue of the state's involvement, the domesticating of it to make it functional. Obviously, it's going to be a long one. I don't think any state has really started. Perhaps, as you said, they have started applying. Could you tell us more about that?
Yes, I know a few states. You see, what is happening now is nothing new. Because we have speculated a regime where states will be able to regulate the electricity sector. Under the unamended constitution, states had powers to set up regulatory structures to regulate electricity in respect of areas not covered by a national grid, and that includes generation, transmission, and distribution. What the existing alteration did was to remove off-grid. Many states can now regulate electricity in respect of generation, transmission, and distribution, both for on-grid and off-grid. So we had anticipated and speculated that we're going to have something like Ogun State Electricity Regulatory Commission or Agency, Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission, Bayelsa State Electricity Regulatory Commission, Ondo State Electricity Regulatory Commission, Kogi State, and so on and so forth. Because then they had powers to regulate off-grid. Now that they have powers now to regulate both on-grid and off-grid, it means the door is now open for them. No state will want to take a plunge into a sector they knew next to nothing about. So what the minister was saying, that they would need to understudy this regime, perhaps sit with experts and industry players and work out modalities, because the system can't afford state government plunging into the power sector just to fail, just as the federal government is having some challenges. I think to that extent, the minister is in order, but the minister cannot, and I don't think had created or evinced an intention to suspend the operationalization of the law. It doesn't have that power. It cannot suspend the law. All right. By the national.
All right.
Cannot suspend. It's appropriate to say, stakeholders, guess what? Let's get it right. Let's sit together. Let's work out the modalities. Let's work it out to make sure it's something that solves the problem of the country and the state holistically. So that we don't make mistakes. Don't repeat the mistakes that we have made in the power sector. To that extent, they will start.
All right, Prof, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time and sharing your perspective on that issue. Professor Yemi Oke, Professor of Energy and Electricity Law.